Jimmy Kimmel found himself at the center of one of the most bizarre political dramas in recent memory, all thanks to a joke. Yes, a single punchline during his late-night show triggered a cascade of events that nobody could have predicted. It began innocently enough. Kimmel was doing what he does best, roasting public figures. This time, his target was Marjorie Taylor Greene, MTG, a member of Congress notorious for her controversial statements and polarizing actions. Little did he know that his jokes would snowball into what can only be described as a surreal chapter. In American politics, Kimmel kicked off the segment by criticizing Greene's new book, calling her the worst woman in American politics. It was the kind of pointed humor audiences had come to expect from the comedian, but he wasn't done. With a flair for comedic exaggeration, Kimmel joked about MTG's conspiratorial tendencies, comparing her book to a flat earther YouTube channel. The audience roared with laughter. It seemed like just another night on late-night TV, but things were about to take a sharp turn. Marjorie Taylor Greene is no stranger to controversy. Over the years, she's made headlines for pushing outrageous conspiracy theories, from claiming that California wildfires were caused by Jewish space lasers to suggesting that school shootings were staged. She's a lightning rod for criticism, often doubling down on statements that most would shy away from. But Kimmel's jokes struck a nerve. Instead of brushing them off, as most politicians might, Greene decided to take an unprecedented step. She called the police. Yes, you read that right. A sitting member of Congress, sworn to uphold the Constitution, including the First Amendment, reported a comedian to law enforcement. Greene took to Twitter to announce her move, writing, ABC, contacts my employer. This threat of violence against me by Jimmy Kimmel has been filed with the Capitol Police. The statement left many scratching their heads. Was this real? Had political discourse sunk to the point where jokes were being classified as threats? The absurdity of the situation wasn't lost on Kimmel. He responded with his signature wit, tweeting, "Officer, I'd like to report a joke." It was a succinct, humorous retort that highlighted the ridiculousness of Greene's actions. But this wasn't just about comedy anymore. It had become a cultural flashpoint. Greene's decision to involve law enforcement sparked widespread debate. Critics pointed out the irony of her actions. Here was a politician who had previously supported defunding the police, now running to them for protection against a joke. It was a plot twist so rich in irony that it could have been ripped from the pages of a satirical novel. Social media exploded with commentary, with many mocking Greene for her overreaction. Others raised concerns about the implications of her actions, questioning whether this marked a troubling shift in how public figures handle criticism. Kimmel, for his part, leaned into the controversy. During his next monologue, he addressed the situation head-on. "This is the same woman," he said, "who once put out campaign ads with guns, blowing things up like a low-budget action movie villain, and now she's crying about violent threats." The audience erupted in laughter. Kimmel wasn't just making jokes, he was pointing out the hypocrisy in Greene's behavior. He didn't stop there. Kimmel dug deeper, calling attention to Greene's history of inflammatory rhetoric. He reminded viewers of her past endorsements of violence against prominent Democrats and her harassment of a school shooting survivor. "Nothing says responsible politician like bullying traumatized kids," Kimmel quipped. The late-night Davidutime host wasn't just defending himself, he was using humor as a tool to hold Greene accountable for her actions. Meanwhile, Greene continued to escalate the situation. She doubled down on her claims, accusing Kimmel of inciting violence and hiding his misogyny behind jokes. In one particularly eyebrow-raising tweet, she wrote, "You weren't joking. You hid your misogyny and racism behind your jokes on ABC. This was a dog whistle to the violent left to assault me or worse." The hyperbolic language only added fuel to the fire, making her the target of even more ridicule. The public's reaction to the saga was a mix of amusement, disbelief, and frustration. On one hand, many found the situation laughable, a comedic feud taken to absurd extremes. On the other hand, it raised serious questions about the state of political discourse. Were we really at a point where a joke could trigger a police report? And what did this say about our collective sense of humor? Or lack thereof? As the drama unfolded, Kimmel continued to do what he does best: make people laugh. But his jokes carried a sharper edge, a pointed critique of the absurdity and hypocrisy on display. He turned the situation into a teachable moment, highlighting the importance of free speech and the role of comedy in holding public figures accountable. "Comedy isn't a crime," Kimmel declared during one monologue. "It's how we make sense of the world, how we challenge power, and yes, how we deal with people like Marjorie Taylor Greene. The feud between Kimmel and Greene became a media sensation, dominating headlines and sparking countless memes. Late-night comedians weighed in, with many siding with Kimmel and poking fun at Greene's over-the-top reaction. It was a rare moment of unity in an otherwise divided media landscape. Even politicians from both sides of the aisle weighed in, some expressing concern over Greene's actions, while others used the situation to score political points. But perhaps the most striking aspect of the saga was the light it shed on the shifting dynamics of politics and comedy. In an era where outrage often trumps reason, the Kimmel-Greene feud felt like a microcosm of larger cultural tensions. It wasn't just about a joke. It was about the power of words, the role of humor, and the boundaries of public discourse. In the end, Kimmel emerged relatively unscathed, his reputation as a sharp-witted comedian intact. Greene, on the other hand, faced widespread criticism for her handling of the situation. While her supporters rallied around her, many saw her actions as a desperate attempt to deflect criticism and silence dissent. The saga served as a reminder of the enduring power of comedy, and the lengths some will go to avoid being the butt of a joke. As the dust settled, one thing became clear. This wasn't just a feud between a comedian and a politician. It was a reflection of our times, a snapshot of a society grappling with issues of free speech, accountability, and the ever-blurring line between politics and entertainment. Whether you found it hilarious, infuriating, or just plain absurd, the Kimmel-Greene saga was a story for the ages, one that reminded us all of the enduring truth that sometimes laughter really is the best medicine.